I was in 8th grade when the pandemic struck in the Philippines, and it was a month right before the school year ended. It really sucked, since our class was only together for almost 2 years. For the next 2 years, we only had online classes through Zoom, which was kinda okay, thankfully due to the teachers working hard to make everything work smoothly. Fast forward to last year, when I finished 10th grade, and I'm going to be an 11th grader. Our teacher then announced that starting the next school year, we would finally have face-to-face classes, although online classes may also be done at the discretion of the teacher. I was ecstatic, since after those 2 whole years of boring online classes, I can finally meet my classmates again in person. The week before classes start, the teacher announced who will be our classmates, what subjects we'll have, and most especially, the section where students will belong. The school was a simple building, beige in colour, a hallway in the middle and stairs at the end. It is only 5 floors tall. 7th graders are on the 1st floor, 8th graders on the 2nd floor, and so on. On the 5th floor, however, the classrooms there are both for 11th and 12th graders, since accordingly, the number of students for those 2 levels is less than half of the number of students in, say, 7th grade. Lucky enough for me, my selection is the room right after the stairs on the last floor. Here comes the first day of class, and I was too stupid to put an alarm clock on my phone. I woke up and then checked my phone. 7:10 a.m. My classes start at 7:30 a.m. I sprang out of bed like a catapult, bathed, ate breakfast, and kissed my parents goodbye. I rode a taxi to the school because it was 7:43 a.m. already, and the taxi was the fastest way to get there. I arrived at the school and ran up the stairs. I was in such a hurry, I didn't even take the time to note what floor I was on. All I know is that I had to get to the last floor and sprint right through to the first room. Alas, that's what I did. Right after I reached the end of the stairs, I quickly turned to the room that I should be in. However, something clicked. I suddenly stopped. I had no idea why I had that feeling. Then, right when I stopped, I noticed my classmates were just sitting still, looking at the board. Is the teacher already here? I asked myself. But I see no teacher, nor do I hear anyone talking. I'm already feeling creeped out by the stillness and the silence of this class. Because I did not want to make any noise, I slowly walked to a vacant chair, right at the back of the classroom. There was also a student right beside where I sat. I was about to ask him whether or not they were just waiting for the teacher, when the teacher entered the classroom. "Good morning, ma'am," we greeted her in chorus as we stood up. She simply nodded twice, the first as a reply, and the second as a sign for us to sit down. I thought, oh okay, maybe they were just nervous earlier. The teacher then proceeded to write our lesson on the board, while she explained at the same time. I thought she was pretty cool, until she started going way too fast for me to absorb any information. I looked to my side to see if my seatmate is as confused as I am. However, he seems unfazed. In fact, all of them look unfazed. When the teacher asks if we understood, my classmates simply say, yes. Have I fallen behind in my studies? Is this what online classes has made me into? I was getting anxious as to why I couldn't keep up with the others. Was the teacher too fast, or am I just slow? Just when I had these thoughts, I heard my teacher yell my name. I quickly responded and stood up. Did you understand the lesson? I was not even able to inhale completely and formulate any kind of answer when she screamed. She just stood up, looked at me, started screaming, and ran out of the classroom. All the while, she kept on screaming. I didn't know if I should feel embarrassed or scared or confused. Before I could sort out my thoughts, my seatmate grabbed my hand and pulled it down, signaling me to sit. I was about to talk to him again when another teacher came in. He was rather calm, and he was even making jokes, albeit none in our class laughed in response. He then gave us some papers for a diagnostic test to see how much we know about the lesson. I was halfway through answering the test when my pen ran out of ink. I tapped the shoulder of the classmate in front of me, and I asked if she maybe had an extra pen. She did not respond. I raised my hand to call the attention of my teacher. I asked him if he has a pen. Right before I could finish saying pen, he suddenly started laughing, insanely loud. He slapped the table and was trembling so much. He was laughing so hard. He had his head looking up and opening his mouth very wide. It was surreal. I could see his cheeks stretching before, again, he just left the classroom. I had no idea what it was, but my seatmate pulled me down to my chair again, and he lent me a pen. I don't even know if I should bother finishing the test. Everything is too weird. However, I decided to just continue the test. I reached the last question, where it asked, explain the carelessly. Not exactly, since I only remembered it was jumbled letters that meant nothing. I was about to ask my seatmate what his last question was when another teacher walked into the class. This time, she looked very proper. She had a grin on her face. Without any warnings, she suddenly called my name. I stood up. Can you explain a little bit about the third question? That one was pretty obvious. I answered the questions and she remarked it as correct. However, she did not make me sit down. She simply expounded my answer and continued to write on the board. Just like my pen, her marker soon ran out of ink. She asked the whole class as to who has a marker. No one responded. Suddenly, she grabbed her left index finger with her right hand and snapped it off. There was lots of blood, and I was just beyond shocked. She wrote on the board as she was using her severed fingers like a marker pen. What the hell? I said under my breath, perhaps a bit too loud, because the teacher stopped writing and called me as to what I said. She turned her head towards me. When I say a turn, I mean a 180-degree turn without moving her body. I'm too freaked out by this. I didn't know what to say. Before I could do anything, My seatmate raised his hand and took the blame, saying that it was him who said that. The teacher made him go in front of her. Just when he did, he immediately hugged the teacher tight, pushed her to a wall, and shouted, "Run!" He wasn't looking at me when he did it, but I'm sure he meant that I should run. Of course, without hesitation, I bolted out of the door and I ran down the stairs. I only ran one floor down when I bumped into a teacher. He called my name and said, "I'm pretty sure you're one of my students this year." I was still very panicky about what happened literally a minute earlier. The teacher looked into my eyes. His face changed expression. Looking now, he looked a bit familiar. "Oh, I see. How many teachers entered the classroom?" he asked. "3, I replied. He inhaled and exhaled loudly, patted my shoulders, and made me look into his eyes. Listen closely to what I'll say. Where we are now is the 5th floor, the last one. If you look behind you, the stairs where you came down from before, it does not exist anymore. The floor you've been at was a mirror of the 5th floor. I don't want to scare you further, but you are very, very lucky to go out right before the 4th teacher enters. There were only a few of us who were able to escape before that happened." I'm shocked at what the teacher said. I almost died right there. And the floor was not even supposed to exist? What the hell? Hold up. What does the teacher mean by us? "You probably saw my brother up there, right?" the teacher asked. "I don't think so, sir. The only adult there was the teacher." I stopped speaking. I realize now why the teacher looked familiar. It was because my seatmate earlier looks like him, but younger. A brother? Did he have a twin? Me and my brother enrolled in this school back then. We were supposed to be in the same classroom. Basically, we also arrived to school late, and we rushed to the top floor. He continued to describe the atmosphere that he felt in that classroom. It was exactly what I felt back then. There were 2 chairs vacant at the back, so we both sat there. 3 teachers came, called my name and not my brother's, and had a freak out afterwards. Every time each class ends, my brother was the one who helped me get back in my proper mind. It was the 4th teacher where the teacher sighed. "Sir, you don't have to say it if you don't want to," I said. "He saved me," he said. "He saved me too, sir," I replied. The teacher patted my head as he seemed to be relieved. "Don't worry. Since we survived that one, we will never go back there. And even if we did, I believe he will be there to protect us," the teacher said. We went to the classroom already, and we finally had a normal day after. I went home feeling tired about what happened that day. I laid down on my bed, thinking about how the teacher's twin is still there in that dimension. It's really freaky to think about it. I closed my eyes to go to sleep when I remembered something. I went straight to my uniform in the laundry basket, fiddled through the pockets, and I grabbed something. It was the pen. The one that Quinn had lent to me.